What's up, guys? Joe, the black stuff. Welcome back to Joe's Book Club. Today's book is The Narcissist in Your Life by Julie L. Hall. Whether I realize it or not, indirectly, I kind of like find myself giving out life advice every now and then, and like, some of you guys will like get a hold of me and let me know a little bit about yourself. You guys are going through something or whatever, and I appreciate that because stuff like that, can be a lot of trust involved in, the fact that we have not met in person, but you feel comfortable enough to share a little bit about yourself with me. Yeah, I do respect that. So it's cool, We got our little tribe going, you know what I'm saying? So it's all good. So I'm here to share what I know, help out, and listen, So no, I'm okay with that. Now, this book, The Narcissist in Your Life, right? When it comes to books that I'm happy to read, this is definitely one of them. It's a 300-page book, roughly, or 270, around there. And the reason why lately I got very, very, very interested in like the topic of narcissism, right? Now, narcissism, by definition, it's in psychology, selfishness involving a sense of entitlement, a lack of empathy, and a need for admiration as characterization or personality type. Personalities and qualities include thinking very highly of oneself, need admiration, believing others are inferior, and lacking empathy for others, right? Now, the cool thing about this topic is, according to this book, is that, narcissism has been something that is fairly new, supposedly, in the sense of like learning about it, because, usually people that have a narcissistic personality disorder, it's not something they come out and say that, oh, this is what I have, right? People that have like narcissistic personality disorders are to the extreme that you are below them, everyone is wrong, that everything they do has to be admired or appreciated because, they're taking effort to, give you attention or whatever, To an extent, everyone has a little form of narcissism, but people that has the NPD or narcissistic personality disorder, they're like at the other fucking end of the spectrum, right? About it. They go into other personality types, cluster B disorder, and so on and so forth. I'm not going to get too much into that, but it's just, I want to talk more about why I started reading more about this and basically why I think it's actually interesting for anyone to really learn about narcissism, right? Or narcissistic personality disorders, because whether you realize it or not, if for whatever reason you've ever dealt with a difficult person in your life, whether it's a family member or a friend, someone you work with, a boss, whatever, and they're like, the type of person that they lie or they deny their mistakes, they fuck up and they've always blamed the person that they did wrong as, it was their fault rather than, oh, I didn't do anything wrong. You fucked up, that I fucked you over somehow, there could be a chance that there's a personality disorder big time, right? That there's something wrong with that person. Now, to give you a better understanding what a person that suffers from a narcissistic personality disorder is simply this, right? Usually in the younger years when you're a kid and you become like, you start to develop like, say bonding or, some type of like attachment towards, say your adult supervision right there, something like that. Something that happens to that child when you're developing that they're not receiving that love that they crave as a child, right? If anything, the parents could be scorn them for not acting a certain way, right? In the extreme case, I'm just gonna use homosexuality as an example, right? Someone that grows up in a family that's very conservative, they don't approve of homosexuality, so that kid learns that, if they have any homosexual tendencies, then they're gonna hide it. They're like, no, right? So they put out a personality that the family is gonna approve on as a, conservative, straight male or, straight female that dates men or women, the opposite sex, does manly shit or does girly things. It's a personality that they're putting in front of them as a defense mechanism, right? That way they can gain the approval of their, family, their friends, their community or, whatever that's involved, So they're hiding their true self. That little kid is portraying another person to the world, right? And basically that disconnect from who you really are to the person that they're portraying, as they get older, it starts to get more extreme. And that's where that narcissistic personality disorder happens, right? So in reality, what's going on, according to this book, is that, the child never develops his own personality. He never develops any real emotional caring or attachment because he keeps portraying this like persona, this image out to the world of who he should be as this perfect individual that cannot do any wrong. So anything that may attack this personality that the child has created as a defense mechanism. If someone says, "Oh, you're bullshit, you're fake," the kid will throw a tantrum and literally start, attacking the other person for fucking calling out his shit. And that's the thing, usually people that have narcissistic personality disorders, they'll throw tantrum as a little kid, trying to like destroy the other person because, he became a threat for calling his bullshit out, his fake personality, because that's his defense. This personality from this kid is in reality is like a little child that's scared, saying it's crazy. So that's basically what's going on with people that are they have developed a bad narcissistic personality disorder, which I find both fucked up, amazing, but very interesting because if you ever dealt with a person that has that attitude that they think they're the shit, but you can see through them that they're fucking fake, and then they fucking literally try to chew your fucking heart out because, you called out their bullshit, there's a chance that they're dealing with a narcissistic personality disorder, right? So keep that in mind. You have a young child that's scared, doesn't know how to really communicate what he or she really wants, but just is more focused on portraying that in that personality, that they're trying to use as a shield to defend themselves from who they really are, right? So yeah, and basically that kid mentality does everything it can to elevate this person from a narcissistic personality disorder, right? So, saying, they want to pretend like they're more important than they really are. They always act like they're the hot shot. Usually say females, they want to try to feel like they're the shit. So they probably end up being very promiscuous, sleeping with a bunch of men, or they want to hook up with a bunch of higher quality man. The moment they find someone else that they think is a more of a higher standards, they'll dump this guy and go with another one, shit like that. Same can go with the opposite, with the guy, they want to be surrounded with hot women and so on and so forth. They get flashy, try to show off their money because they want to see, show like they're like the shit, right? It's crazy, So I don't know. I feel that's why I think it's kind of cool to learn more about this topic, because if you've ever been in a situation, say you're dating someone and they were like, "Oh, I love you. You're the best thing ever. You're in the world." You got praised and all that shit. But then out of nowhere, that person dumps you because they went with someone else, and you're like, "What the fuck happened?" Right? Usually, that's pretty much what's going on, right? The other person may be dealing with some form of narcissistic issues. And for whatever reason, she didn't feel like you were the person that they thought you were in their head. So now they're going over to some other guy to fulfill their fantasy, right? Because remember, they're the kid. They have another person that's not them. They need someone to fulfill their fantasy of what's perfect, right? Yeah, it's crazy. So, all right, enough of that. If it's not obvious, I dealt with some bullshit in the past and it all makes sense once you start learning more about narcissism. You're like, oh, what the fuck? It all makes sense now that I dealt with this shit, right? It's a very interesting topic, right? What I like about this book is it's actually broken up into chapters about okay, what's a narcissistic person? What are things that they do? How do they attack? How do they, gaslight you to think you're the wrong person? All that stuff, It goes into different chapters. If you're the victim of one, if you grew up with a parent, if you were in a relationship with one, if you have a child with a person that has a narcissistic personality disorder, it's actually separated in that sense, right? I can give you advice on what you can do and also what to look out for, right? Because for the most part, the way how most doctors, psychologists, they learn about narcissism is more through the victims of a narcissist, right? Because a narcissist can do no wrong. They're always right, they're always perfect, so they're never gonna go to a psychologist and admit that they have a problem, right? Because they'll destroy their image that they're putting out, that they're smart, that they're perfect, that they're invincible, or whatever, right? Usually the victims that grew up with a mental trauma from dealing with their shit, that the psychologists are learning from this stuff, right? So most of the stories that they use as an example, it comes from a person that grew up that's a victim of a narcissist, right? Just like I was saying, if whatever reason you dealt with a situation where you had a girlfriend or a boyfriend that they admire you, saying you're perfect and this and that, yada yada, they make you feel special. They want to make sure they earn your affection right off the bat, and then you got dumped, and then they moved on to someone else like nothing. You're like, what the fuck? That's an example. Basically, you're dealing with someone that may have strong narcissistic tendencies, right? Growing up with family members, usually the mother or father will basically want to make sure that they have the perfect family, so they can kind of micromanage every stupid little thing that you do because they want to make sure that you are representing how good of a child you are, because they want to make sure that they present themselves as being a perfect parent. You have good grades, you're the perfect husband or wife, so they want to make sure you're dressed right, you act right, you're involved in sports and all that shit. There's one example where say there are parents say that they want to show the world that they're a good parent because their kids are good academically in school, right? So something that they'll do to the extreme is like they'll do the homework for their child for them, right? So they can keep getting the good grades, right? Because they don't care about the child's actual education or actually doing well in school. They care more about like the visual of people seeing that his kid is doing good in school, right? He's getting a high grade, so he gives more fuck about that than what the kid is actually dealing with, right? It goes to other extremes too with like control, right? Like the parent may want to feel important in the child's life, right? So they get more involved in the sense of like controlling their finances, right? That way, like the parent could feel like they're important towards the child, right? Because that's the thing about I learned through this book about narcissistic people. There's a lot of fear that they have, right? They're scared of people realizing they're not who they are. They're scared of people realizing that they're fake, right? Say if a parent is trying to control a child through their sense of like the finances, right? So whether they give them allowance or they work with them or stuff like that. Basically, but them controlling their finances, it keeps them dependent at the parent, right? That way, if the child wants to go off and do his own thing, it becomes difficult because he's stuck financially to the parent, and the parent feels like he has this power over him because, he can't, child can't do anything independently because the parent has made the kid too dependent on him. And then it goes into other like details like persons that are narcissistic, they usually attract people that are very codependent. People that have like low self-esteem, certain like emotional trauma, right? So because they grew up with bad trauma, they find a person that's like bossy, let's say like a narcissist, so they kind of like match each other, not necessarily in a good, healthy way, but become very codependent with each other, You got the codependent guy that wants to do everything to please the narcissist. You got the narcissist that likes this guy because he does whatever they want, so it's a very, very ugly fucking relationship, right? Just scrolling through this book. I mean, it's like I said, it's very interesting. It's a good book. Now, I mean, I could go into more details. I just don't want to go off and like reveal too much about myself. I'll share the idea with because I do want to maintain some privacy. I mean, there's reasons why I got into this topic, right? I did deal with some like personal issues, right, growing up, but again, I just don't want to get into that, right? But if you were a type of person that maybe you grew up with a parent that was difficult, whatever, or you got into a relationship with someone that you thought they were perfect, but the moment you got into him, all of a sudden they turn into like this monster. Like, what the fuck, right? A good giveaway about a person being a narcissist is that when they meet a stranger, right off the bat, they act perfect, they're smiling, they're charismatic, they have that personality of like, they want to be your good friend, everyone loves them, but behind the closed doors, with someone that they know for a while, they were fucking assholes, they're miserable, they're trash, I've met people that they could be fucking mad at you, yelling, they're miserable because something wrong happened, right? The moment they get a phone call, someone that, they barely know, they're like, hey, dude, what's up, man? How you doing? Oh, everything is great. Yeah, yada, yada. The moment they hang up the fucking phone, fuck! Blah, blah. So yeah, those are like the narcissistic personality disorders that like, usually what happens is that people that like, when they first meet someone, because they don't know who they really are, they actually like that blank slate because it gives them the opportunity to basically paint this person that them being perfect, right? Again, a weak child mentality projecting a perfect individual that they're not, right? So with someone that they don't know, hey, this is me, this is who I am, this perfect person, right? But reality, say someone, say like the family member or you're a close friend or you're someone in a relationship with, they start to put their guard down because, for them to project that image gets tired, it's too much work. So then they start to like become who they really are in the inside, which is fucking miserable people, insecure, anger, frustrated, has no, like, can take responsibility for anything like that. Literally, they're fucking children, they're in adult bodies, which is kind of crazy to think about, right? And that's something that basically people with narcissistic personality disorders develop, right? They are basically still kids emotionally, but they portray to be themselves as an adult, right? But they're not because they're never been accepting of who they are, whatever that may be. They can be honest to deal with who they really are on the inside, right? So I don't know. It's a very interesting topic. I really, really like this book. If you are a person that has dealt or you think you may deal with someone that's a narcissist, there is help, right? Especially on YouTube, right? I found like YouTube channels where like women, they are psychiatrists that deal mainly with men that grew up with a narcissistic female. If you're in a relationship with they dealt with a narcissistic woman, they'll help you out because usually what happens is like they want to make sure that they're perfect. And what happens is like the narcissist will fucking tear down your self-esteem down to shit. And they do that for mainly to make sure that they have power over you so they won't leave. Because someone that's sure about themselves, they're mentally and physically and financially, spiritually independent, they can be like, you know what, fuck you, I'm out. So basically the narcissist was trying to make sure they break down that individual to that point where like they're gone. You know, you lose yourself, right? And basically, you know, obviously it's gonna destroy your mental trauma. It kills the individual, right? But the funny thing is, like that narcissist, when they do that, they lose respect for this person. So it's just like, it becomes like a losing battle. It's like, fuck, dude, you know? So yeah, it's a very traumatizing experience to be dealing with someone that's a narcissist, right? And if you feel like you have dealt with anything like that, get help, read books, look up narcissistic people, you know. If you're in a relationship with someone, like I said, look up dating or married to a narcissist. You grew up with a parent that you think was a narcissist, look into that. You know, because it's bad. It's a very mentally traumatizing thing, right? So learning that about that will make you a lot happier, trust me. Anyways, good fucking book. Even if you never experienced something as terrible as this shit, I still think it's an interesting topic, right? Because, you know, there's a chance that you may come across a person with that. And if you're a strong mentally individual, you should have no problem to tell these people to fuck off because, you know, that's the one thing about this book or any psychologist that you watch or that you read about is basically a person that has like this personality disorder. For the most part, there's no real cure for them because they're living in a fake fantasy world that they're never gonna admit or they're never gonna like change, right? And you gotta like just the best thing you can do is just cut them off from your life and move on. Don't talk to them. You know, but you have to do it in a manner that's very strategic because, you know, a person like, you know, they don't want to lose. They don't want to feel like a loser. So if they, you know, if you cut them off or do something, they're going to go out of their way to actually make your life miserable. They're going to like, you know, a smear campaign. They're going to lie about you. You know, they can try to get all of their friends or family members against you. You know, they call them flying monkeys, you know, like the Wizard of Oz. They can try to get all of your friends against you. They make you paint like the bad guy when in reality they're the fucked up ones. So yeah, it's a dangerous situation to be involved with someone like that. So please be careful. Learn about that. And if you find yourself in a situation like that, there is help. Get the fuck out. But, you know, you have to make a plan to exit. You know, that's the thing, you know. Definitely be careful. All right, anyways, that's all I have to say about this book. I really, really, really like this fucking book. And it's an interesting topic. And I think for mental health reasons, you know, I think it's an interesting topic to learn about. If you haven't dealt with it, it's still good to learn about. If you are dealing with it, definitely learn about it. All right, that's all I have to say. Good book. Really good fucking book. All right, talk to you later. Peace.